We're now on the top of Memvav Amid Beis. And the Gemara is saying that according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, it's not enough that the original Boel in the accusation of the Motzi Shemra had a Bila Kedarka, but also he, the husband who's being Motzi Shemra, also had a Bila Kedarka. And yet in the Brisa it says, Ad sheyivel afilu shelo kedarka v'yotzi shema kedarka. Ella says the Gemara, Sholach Rav Kahana mishmei Rav Yochanan eino chayv ad sheyivel kedarka v'yotzi shema kedarka. You have to change the text in the Brisa. And the Brisa Enochinami reflects the Shita and stands on the shoulders of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, and both the Be'ilah of the accused immoral relationship and the Be'ilah of the Motzi Shema, the husband, both have to be Idar. And this leads us to the Mishnah here on the top of Daf Mem Vav Amid Beis. So we're learning now the Mishnah. Ha'av zakai bebito b'kiddusha b'kesef b'shtar u'b'bir. We're talking about the father of a Ketana or a Nara, and he marries off his daughter in one of three ways. And in one way, he pockets the money because he married her off b'kesef. Not only that, but zakai b'mitzi asa u'b'maisiyadeh b'faras nedareha u'mekabel es gita. So if his daughter finds a lost object, or she earns wages, he pockets that money, the father pockets that money, and he's mefer her nidarim. If the husband, after the father married her off to this guy, decides to divorce her, then she does not collect a get, certainly not a ketana. In the case of Nara, either she or the father can collect a get. Now, let's say she inherits money from her mother. Like, let's say, for example, he was married twice. So she has an inheritance from her mother. The father has no rights to those pairs. Now, all this is during her katnus and narus. And now we get to the case where the father married her off. That's called Masechet. So the father did not have rights to monies that she brought in, his daughter, from another marriage, from another mother. But the husband, in the context of Ksuba, the Baal could eat the peros, that's called mitzvah malug, that she, his wife, inherited from her mother. The chayav, okay, but it's not a freebie. You know, ksuba works in two directions. Chayav b'zonasel, he has to support his wife. Ubipirkona, and if she chashon becomes captive, he has to pay the ransom. And b'kfurasa, he has to pay all the expenditures for her burial. What if he's very poor? Today, you want to get buried in Beit Shemesh. You know, my wife and I are clapping. Why didn't we buy a plot in Beit Shemesh? Today it's the barest minimum for a poor, poverty-stricken family for a burial, a decent burial lechoda, is going to be 2 chalilim and 1 mekonenis. Mekonenis was the professional dirger. You know, she cries and brings the people to cry. The Gemara asked Bekesem, how do you know that the father, when he marries off his ketana or his nara, his daughter, he pockets money of kiddush? Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Krav Yatz'achinam Ein Kesem. We're talking about an Amavriya who was sold as such by her father. She's a ketana. And when she becomes a Nara and she exhibits Simoni Naros, she goes free. And the Adon who purchased the Yom Free has no rights to demand money. He can't say, well, I expected to get X number of years of work and so forth. And the Torah says, V'yatza chinam, she goes out free without paying any money. Ein kesef. Why did the Torah add those two words, ein kesef? It says V'yatza chinam. Ein kesef lo zev yesh kesef lo danach. Umanu avir. The Torah is saying that in another case, in another scenario, there is kesef. And that's going to be Kedushay Kesef, and that goes to the father. So the Gemara immediately asks, okay, there is Kesef, but who says the Kesef goes to the father? Maybe she pockets the Kesef. After all, she's a Nara. And the Gemara introduces a Svar. The Torah says, as Biti Nasati Shazeh, the father has rights to marry off his daughter. Hashta avia mekabel kiddusheha. The chsiv is biti nasati chazeh. Is shakla kaspa? A man gets money from the Mekadesh when he marries off his daughter, and that's explicit in the Torah. So if the Torah is saying that he gets money, it must mean that she doesn't pocket the money, but the Kesef Kedusha goes to the father. So when you read the words in the Gemara, Ve'i Shakla Kaspa, it's like a rhetorical question. It would be ridiculous to say that he marries off his daughter and she gets the money. The Ema, but maybe that's only the Ketana. She doesn't have the yad to be the Kaddish herself. I will narrow this yad. She can go out and receive Kedushin. Is to Kaddish Nafsha. It wasn't her father was Mekadosh her, and therefore she should be able to pocket the money of Kedushin. Now we go to the parasha of first Nidar. And the Torah there says that as long as she's a Nara, she's in Beis Avia, she's in the domain of her father, Kol Shvach Yurim Lavia, he gets all the monies that accrue to. Again, you have to ask yourself, in the light of this pasuk, the way the Gemara is interpreting it, what if she brings in money that she inherits from her mother? Why doesn't that go to her father? Kol Shvach Yurim Lavia. And that's a special exclusion in the parasha of Yerusha. Now we have a different source for the fact that the father gets rights to his daughter's money. If she has a job and she earns wages, how do we know the father pockets those wages? Right? The Torah speaks about a father's rights to sell his daughter as an omavriya. And by doing so, all her Maisi Yadayim are being transferred over to her master who bought her as an omavriya. And the equation to Bito here is that Bas is also Maisi Yadel Aviyah. Now you just quoted the pasuk, Islamically, why does Rav Huna have to invoke this pasuk in the parasha of Amavriya? Apparently, Binureh Beis Aviyah cannot teach me anything about the laws of marriage. The father has rights to be made for his daughter's Nidarim until she gets married. So you're going to say, well, why does Rav Huna need his drasha of Kiyim Karishas Bitol Yama let him learn it from Binu Rebbe Savir. So you can answer me, well, that pasuk is only referring to Hafaras Nedarim. The father has rights to be made for his daughters Nedarim. But Neilith Mine, why not derive from Nedarim that in general she's in the Rishus of her father, not only in regard to Nedarim, but in regard to Dini Mamanos. And the Gemara rejects it. Mamon Isur lo Yalfinon. We don't derive Dini Mamon from Dini Isur. V'chitena Neilith Miknasa. What about Ones Umafatin? Ones Umafatin, the Torah says, Nasan Lavia Nara. So apparently, even in Dini Mamanos, she's in the domain of her father. And that's Nafka Nara. And where it says we can't derive conclusions in Mammon from Knas. Now this line in the Gemara, what can I tell you, my friends, is impossible. Gemara is saying, let's derive that he has rights to pocket the money, the father has rights to pocket the money when he marries off his daughter, from the fact that in Onus of Afata, he pockets the money for Boshus Ubagam, which is Mammon and not Knas. How does the Gemara know that he pockets the money of Boshus Ubagam? That's based on the svara that he could marry her off. It's mamish a magal ksamim here, a vicious cycle. This is Tosas Dibra Maskal to E. Back on Daf Mem Amid Beis. The reason why he pockets Bosh the Begam is because he can marry her off. And now, as a result of the Boshus and the Begam of Onus and Mafata, she goes down in the market. He loses that money that he could have gained by marrying her off and pocketing the money. But we don't even know yet that he pockets the money of Kesef, because we're trying to derive that. So in any event, at this point, the Gemara has rejected the possibilities of deriving conclusions from other sources. The Gemara is going to go back now to the Yotzach Chinam and Kosef. And the Gemara is going to say the following svara. You said that maybe Ein Kesef Lo Zevel, Yesh Kesef Lo Nachar means that she herself pockets the money. Mistabra the Chimamayit, Rachmani Yitzia the Kavasa Kamamayit. We're comparing the case of Abba Ivriya to the case of a father who's marrying off his daughter. And therefore, just like in the case of Abba Ivriya, we're saying that the Adon doesn't get any money, the flip side is, but with regard to a father, he does get the kesef. So when we ask for Lodamya, Ha Yitzia, Lo Ha Yitzia, Hasam Gabi Adon, Nafkale Meshuse Legabra. Right, and when she becomes a narrow, it's the money narrows. The amhus of Amavri is completely terminated. But we only talk about Erison. And as long as it's Erison, she's still in his rituals before Nesua, before Chuppah. So Gemara answers, but wait a minute. In one sense, even with Erison, she leaves his rituals. Why? Because Me'afaris Nidarim via Nafkala Mershusa. This not. Now we're also via Bailam and via Lana Darel. He no longer has exclusive rights to be made for Hanadorim. And therefore, the Gemara says we have a valid derivation from the Yotzach Chinam and Kasa, because she does go out of his Rishus, the Rishus of the father, with Erison, at least as far as Hafaras Nidarim is concerned. He no longer has exclusive rights to be made for Nidarim. Now he has to partner up with her husband, the Arus, and together they're made for the Nin. And now we have a derivation of the Yotzach Chinam and Kosef. Ein Kosef Lo Zevel, Yesh Kesef Lo Bishtaru Bia. How do you know that the father has rights to marry off his daughter, but she's an Arab Ketana with Shtaru Bia? My krav I saw Ish Acher Iskish Avayis La Dodi. We equate Kesef with Shtaru Bia. All the laws that apply to Kesef Shtaru Bia apply to all three alike. Mishnah says Hakoy b'mitziasa. Right, if he has a daughter who's either a Ketana or Nara and she finds a lost object, he pockets that money. And the Gemara says on the top of Mem Zayin Amud Aleph, Bishum Eva. This was the Takonis Chachamim. That mitzad adin, the father does not have to support his daughter who's a Ketana or a Nara. There was a Takonis Chachamim to protect this young girl, every young girl, that obligates the father to what? To support his daughter. And we have to give him something quid pro quo. So what do we give him quid pro quo? If she finds a lost object, then it accrues to him. So here we are on the top of Daf Mem Zayin Amud Aleph. And that's where we'll start in Mitzvah Shem tomorrow. So thank you very much for the early hour. I wish you a great day. Tomorrow back to hopefully regular schedule.